Fuse is one of the new abilities in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and Fuse has some very useful and interesting capabilities. The major one, improving each and every one of your weapons to increase their attack power, give elemental abilities to the weapon, or even allow you to fuse two weapons together. But with so many options in the game and so many items you can obtain, what are the best weapon fusions for you? What's going on, everybody? My name is Mr. West, and today I'm going to teach you guys what the best weapon fusions are for you depending on where you're at in the game. I'm going to go through the early game, middle game and late game, and the items you can use to fuse to your weapons that are relatively easy to get and don't take hours and hours of grinding to obtain. Of course, before we get into that, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We are rapidly approaching 1,000 followers and we need your help to get there. Alright, let's get it. Before I continue, I should warn you that there may be footage of items, sages, or other things from later on in the game that some of you may consider as spoilers. I will not be spoiling any of the storyline in my videos, but I cannot help if you see some gameplay of things that you haven't unlocked yet in your playthrough. Firstly, I want to clarify this is not a video on the best and strongest weapon fusion combinations that you can get in the game. This video is a practical video that hopefully can apply to anyone at any point of their playthrough. I will not be going through what weapons are the best and what weapons to use specifically, more just what items are the best and most practical to use to fuse to any weapon at different points in the game. Obviously, some weapons are stronger than others, so fusing any of these items to stronger weapons will give higher attack power weapons. If you want a way to get some high powered royal weapons quickly, check out my quick guide. All of these items are what I found to be the most accessible and practical in my playthroughs of the game. If you manage to get stronger fuse items earlier in the game, then by all means go for fusing those to your weapons. As this is an open world game, you can easily go and take down a Lynel or Gleeok whenever you want to if you are skilled enough and get strong enough early game items. But for the majority of players, these items I'm about to go through are definitely the best for you at whatever point you are in the game. First, we will talk about a few of the early game weapon fusions that will be super helpful for the early game once you've just left the Great Sky Island. The first early game weapon fusion is using Construct Horns. While you are getting through the Great Sky Island and completing the very start of the game, you will get your hands on quite a few Construct Horns. I know when I started playing, I didn't even think to use these as weapon fusions, but they are great starting off. They can turn a 2 or 4 damage weapon into an 8 to 10 damage weapon, which in the early game is great. This will help you lots in getting through the tougher monsters and tougher areas right from the very start. Make sure to use 2 or 3 Construct Horns to fuse to your weapons while you're in the early game. The second early game weapon fusion is using Horriblin Horns. Now, don't get me wrong, you can use any monster parts that you come across to fuse to your weapons to make them stronger, but Horriblins can be found in almost any cave within or around Hyrule Fields, the starting area when you come down to the surface from the Great Sky Island. Horriblin Horns have a higher fuse power than other monsters in this area, and they are really easy to get. In my playthrough where I haven't even unlocked the Skyview Tower of Hyrule Fields and only 4 hearts, I easily killed 3 or 4 Horriblins in a cave and got 4 or 5 fuse power horns from these guys. These Horriblin Horns are great early game weapon fusions. Now, some of you may still be learning the combat mechanics and improving your fighting strategies, but this method you can use without any combat at all. This is taking advantage of the floor items that respawn, and you can get them over and over again. These items are spiky iron balls. At the Hyrule Fields Skyview Tower, this place is surrounded by monsters. But at the top of the ramp is a massive spiky iron ball. If you have unlocked this tower or not, you can run up and fuse this to your weapon quickly and then run away. This gives a huge fusion power to your weapon, especially for the early game. Another way to get these is to travel to the Kamizun Shrine in the south in Hyrule Fields. This is a beginner proving ground which you will have to complete before you can do this method, but once you've completed this shrine, travel to it and prepare the weapon you want to fuse to. Run inside and run straight to the spiky iron ball at the back of the shrine and fuse it to your weapon. Once it's fused, fast travel back to the same shrine. When you run in again, this iron ball will be there respawned. You can do this endlessly until you have fused one to all of your weapons if you wanted to. This is definitely overpowered for this point of the game, and you can do this when you're in the middle or late game, as this weapon fusion is super strong. Definitely take advantage of this trick, as you can repeat this as many times as you want. The middle game is when you've completed a few of the storylines, unlocked a variety of places on the map, and monsters start to increase in their difficulty. You will need to start having stronger and more powerful weapon fusions to help get you through this part of the game. I do suggest that you have the Phantom armor set at this point in the game, as it makes fighting monsters and farming items so much easier and will help you immensely throughout the game. I'll put a card at the top of the screen for my Phantom armor set video. The first fusion I'm going to talk about are Zonai Devices, specifically Flame, Shock and Ice emitters. These don't necessarily increase your weapon's damage, but the effect they have while using them is definitely overpowered at this point in the game. By now, you will have explored parts of the Sky Islands and found different Zonai dispensers. This means that you can keep getting these emitters by putting Zonai charges into the dispensers and getting these emitters. Fuse them to your weapon, and using these will not only damage enemies from both your weapon and the elemental effect, but also, depending on the effect, will make them be shocked or frozen, preventing them from attacking you. This is great, as you will start to encounter more enemies and mobs, and they will be more powerful. Definitely don't sleep on getting a few emitters out and fusing them to your weapons. The next great middle game fusion are Stone Talus Hearts. Now, these are not physical items you can pick up and fuse whenever you want to, so you will need to be more strategic with getting these and fusing them to decent weapons. Stone Taluses at this point in the game can be very easy, especially if you have the spiky iron ball weapon from earlier in the video and the Phantom armor set. The easiest way is when you get to a Stone Talus, jump on top of it and hold the charge attack with a two-headed weapon. You will spin, hitting the ore deposit that deals damage to the Stone Talus, and you will quickly defeat these monsters. Once defeated, a Stone Heart will drop among the loot. Fuse this to a decent weapon and it can improve the damage of that weapon by 20 to 30, which is definitely overpowered for this point in the game. You can also do this with flux constructs you find in the Sky Islands, but they do require more effort and a more particular strategy to defeat compared to a Stone Talus. Definitely get a Stone Heart fused to your weapons when you can. The last middle game weapon fusions, we are going to be using dragon parts, specifically the dragon shards. By now, you have unlocked different Skyview towers, and chances are you may have already encountered one of the 4 dragons. When you get to a dragon, fly to its tail and start to run along its back. Along the big crystals, you will start to find dragon shards, and you can get around 5 to 10 for every time you visit a dragon. Remember, once you collect all of them and get to the head, shoot the dragon's horn, mouth or claw to get a dragon part to come off. Unfortunately, you can't really get lots of dragon parts quickly, such as the horns, claws or fangs, but because we can get quite a few of these dragon shards, this makes them perfect for us to use for weapon fusions. These greatly increase the weapon's damage and also give that weapon an elemental effect. The best in my opinion is the light dragon shards, as every time you hit an enemy, you will get healed. This is definitely very overpowered for this point in the game, and these shards are great to fuse to your weapons. The last weapon fusions I'm going to talk about are the late game weapon fusions. Now, late game can be different for everyone, as it will come down to your game skill and combat skill in acquiring a lot of the items that have the highest fuse power. Feel free to try and get these items at any point in the game, but for the majority of you, these will probably be late game items. I do suggest that you have the Fierce Deity set by this point in the game and upgrade it to level 2. If you need help getting this armor set, I'll link my Fierce Deity video at the top of the screen. The first late game items are monster parts, more specifically monster horns. As you get further into your playthrough, you will start to encounter more black, white, silver, and eventually gold monsters, and each item they drop will progressively have higher fuse power and obviously be better for weapon fusions. Don't be afraid to use some of these items, and by this point in the game, you will have quite a few sitting in your inventory. My personal favourite was the silver Horriblin Horns and the silver Horriblin Horns. Definitely don't be afraid to use these for your weapon fusions, especially if you're stuck on a difficult boss fight or a difficult part of the storyline. Next we have Molduga, Lynel and Gleeok parts. These parts can be intimidating to get first off, but if you have a decent armor set like the Phantom or Fierce Deity and some strong weapons from previous in the video, you will be more than fine. These items are not too difficult to farm, and every blood moon you can go to a couple of these monsters to farm them. My favourite are the Horriblin Horns, but Gleeok Horns and Molduga Jaws are really great as well. They give you super high powered weapons, and the Gleeok parts will also give you an elemental effect. I can't go through the best way to defeat these monsters in the video, but if you would like to see a guide on the easiest ways to defeat these monsters, let me know in the comments below. Lastly, I want to talk about using gemstones. So far, everything we have talked about will definitely give you the most amount of firepower to help you through any point in the game, even the last fight of the game if you know what I'm talking about. But gemstones aren't often considered, as they are generally what we use to make money with. With the fact that we consider them rare and valuable, diamonds can be amazing weapon fusions. They have a high fuse power, and if you have a lot of them, or have used my duplication method, you can use these to create super powerful fusions for your weapons. Definitely consider this, especially in the late game when you need stronger weapon fusions to get through the game. Now you should know about the best and most overpowered weapon fusions for whatever point you are at in the game. Remember, these are general guidelines for what point of the game you are, but if you are in the early game and can get middle or late game items, definitely don't be afraid to use those or try these different methods in getting those items. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm really enjoying making content for all of you, and subscribing really helps me in building this channel. Thanks for watching. I'll catch us all later.